The busy cafe. Sara was a young professional who had recently moved to New York City from a small town. She had always dreamed of living in a big city, and when she landed a job at a tech startup, she was thrilled. New York had everything she could have ever wanted: tall buildings, endless opportunities, and people from all around the world. But there was one challenge she hadn't anticipated: keeping up with the speed of native English speakers. One evening after work, Sara found herself sitting alone in a bustling cafe near her apartment. She loved to people-watch, noticing the unique rhythm of New Yorkers as they hurried from one place to another. At the table next to her, two friends were catching up. Their conversation moved fast. Too fast. To Sara, it sounded like a stream of sounds merging together, impossible to separate. "Can I get you anything else?" a waiter asked, pulling Sara from her thoughts. "Oh, just a coffee, thank you," she replied with a nervous smile. But even the waiter's simple question had startled her. "I've studied English for years," she thought, "but sometimes I can't keep up with how fast people talk here." With a sigh, she realized she'd been missing out on conversations and opportunities. That night, as she left the cafe, she made a decision. She was going to push herself to improve her listening skills, no matter how challenging it felt. Taking the first step. The very next day, Sara started her plan. She began by listening to podcasts, hoping that the familiarity of the topics would make it easier. But the rapid pace of casual English was overwhelming. Expressions, slang, and the lack of textbook-perfect grammar made it tough to follow. Feeling frustrated, she tried something new. She downloaded an app designed for listening practice and tried shadowing the speakers, repeating sentences just after she heard them. This helped her catch words and practice her pronunciation, but it wasn't quite like real conversation. Determined not to give up, she set a goal to practice listening in real situations. She would ask people to repeat things when she didn't understand and try not to be embarrassed by it. She realized that it wasn't about catching every single word, but about understanding the general meaning. The brave cafe conversation. On Saturday, Sara returned to her favorite cafe. As she waited for her coffee, she overheard two people chatting a few tables away. They were discussing weekend plans, speaking with that typical New York speed. Normally, she would have avoided joining in, fearing she wouldn't be able to keep up. But today, she had made up her mind. Taking a deep breath, she introduced herself. "Hi, I couldn't help but overhear. Are you planning to visit Central Park?" The two friends paused, a bit surprised but friendly. "Yeah, we're planning to take a picnic there," one of them replied. Sara listened carefully, allowing herself to relax into the rhythm of their conversation. She didn't catch every word, but she understood enough to ask questions and even make a joke about New York's unpredictable weather. It felt exhilarating to hold her own in a real conversation. By the time she left the cafe, she was feeling hopeful. Maybe, with more practice, she could make fast English easier to understand. Embracing the struggle. In the weeks that followed, Sara made fast listening practice a part of her routine. She sought out podcasts, vlogs, and radio shows where people spoke quickly and naturally. She even attended a weekly language exchange, pairing up with native speakers who wanted to learn her language in exchange for practicing English. One evening, she met Matt, a native New Yorker who spoke quickly and loved to tell stories. As he launched into tales about his childhood in the city, she found herself missing some parts but catching others. And as they chatted, she began to realize that understanding fast English wasn't about hearing every single word. It was about grasping the main points, the tone, and the intent. "Let me guess," Matt teased her one day. "You understood about half of that story, right?" Sara laughed. "More like 3/4. I think I'm getting better." Matt grinned. "You are. Just keep going. The more you listen, the easier it'll get. We New Yorkers love to talk, so you'll get plenty of practice." A breakthrough moment. One evening, Sara attended a networking event for her job. People around her were speaking rapidly about tech trends, future projects, and their career journeys. Just as she started to feel overwhelmed, she heard a conversation about her area of expertise. As the conversation continued, she found herself fully engaged. She understood almost everything, even the fast-paced side comments and laughs. It was a breakthrough. She was no longer focusing on individual words but understanding the flow of conversation as a whole. When she returned home that night, Sara felt accomplished. Her practice was paying off. She realized she didn't have to understand every word to feel confident in a conversation. It was a skill she had worked hard to develop, and she was proud of her progress. The final challenge. Sara's final test came a few weeks later during a team meeting at work. Her manager was speaking quickly, sharing updates and future goals. It was a crucial discussion, and she needed to understand everything. This time, she applied all the strategies she had learned. She focused on listening to key words, paid attention to the manager's tone, and didn't panic if she missed something. At the end of the meeting, she found she had followed along without getting lost. The real reward came when her manager asked her to present a new idea to the team. Not only had she understood the meeting, but she was confident enough to contribute. Now that Sara had reached her goal, she realized that her journey could inspire others. Fast English wasn't something to be feared. It was a skill that could be developed with practice. She shared her story with friends and encouraged them to embrace listening challenges. Listening to fast English isn't impossible, she told them. It's like learning to ride a bike. At first, you're nervous and maybe a little scared. But once you find your balance, you start to enjoy the ride. So here's where you come in. Are you ready to embrace the challenge of fast English? Whether it's joining in conversations, practicing with podcasts, or repeating after native speakers, don't be afraid to dive into the fast flow of words. Remember, you don't have to understand every word to understand the meaning. Just keep listening, keep practicing, and soon you'll find that you can keep up, and even enjoy, the speed of native speakers.